All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to Elevate the World podcast, episode 20. We have a little guest appearance today. We're going to be talking about mental health with athletes. All right. So it is going to be me and Ange, and our guest appearance is going to be Audrey Baldwin. Say hi, Audrey.
Hi, guys.
Awesome. Before we kick into everything real quick, we're going to have Ange start off with our quote of the day, and we'll go from there. So what you got for us today, Ange?
All right, so this is my new podcast studio. Just kidding. My original podcast studio is getting renovated, so I'll have some fresh new look for you guys next time. So I'm in my car. This is weird. I don't like living out of my car. All right, so the quote today: for the longest time, I thought asking for help was a sign of weakness because that's kind of what society teaches us. Well, you know what? If someone wants to call me weak for asking for help, that's their problem because I'm saving my own life. Now, before I tell you who said this, I was very shocked. Michael Phelps, 2017.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I think that's a really good quote to start our topic today.
No, 100%. And I chose this topic, one, having Audrey in mind, still staying connected with Audrey, and just some of the stuff that we've been seeing going on with some professional athletes. I know more athletes today have been more vocal and kind of putting more effort in to kind of make it more of an awareness for mental health. People are either like kind of stepping away from the sport, or they're just kind of just being there for other athletes or anyone that really needs help. So this was a really important one, especially like being a coach, and you don't always know what's going on in your members' minds or your clients' minds. So it's like sometimes they hold on to things. They don't really think about the other things beside, like they have so much more going on than like them just being at the gym with you. You know what I mean? So all those things can really add up. I know a lot of people go to the gym to kind of alleviate that, but that's just something they use to cope with stress sometimes. But for athletes, it's something that's their life. So that's like, it's everything for them. And when people are being like super judgmental, tweeting about players and like doing like all this stuff and just really kind of bashing them sometimes, like you might not think they care, but like that has like a really big effect on them. So that brings us with Audrey. So Audrey, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So first of all, I love this topic, obviously, but so I am a professional soccer goalkeeper. I've been playing professionally since 2015, played soccer since I was 5. Always grew up in sports, but was never like super good, I guess, like naturally, but I always was that person that just wanted to put my best forward. And for me, that came naturally. But then like, as I went through my professional career and playing in, 10 different countries now, traveling by myself, going through everything that I did, because I was never top level. So there were a lot more struggles, I think, than people realize. And through that, I realized first I wanted to be a fitness coach. So I started doing that. I did individual coaching, and I still do, for soccer and for strength and conditioning. And then recently just graduated my master's in sport and exercise psychology, which I wanted to do because I wish I had someone during these times to help me through everything. And I feel like I had a great support system in which I could figure it out myself and just my natural ability to figure it out. But there are a lot of people that don't have that and will do, like you said, where they'll quit the sport or have like a lot more struggles than usual. And I want to be that person for someone, or as many people as I can, obviously, but for someone at least.
Oh, that's great. And then working with you, you could always just tell that like you are there to help others. And that's kind of like why we created this podcast as well. Elevate others, elevate the world, kind of just give people like a little bit, like we're not expecting to change someone's life over one episode, but like we hope that like when you listen to our episodes that you're getting a little bit of something from it. And our goal is to kind of hit every little topic. And this is, I feel like, a very big topic. I wouldn't even say it's a little topic. It's a huge topic, very undermined over the years. And I feel like it's definitely thing coming up to the surface. Especially like with some athletes you could think of is like Simone Biles during the Olympics. Everyone had a huge backlash of her sitting out on some of her events, which I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how you gonna like, I don't know, like sensitive topic, but like it just aggravates me. Like people just think like that these athletes have to do whatever people like tell them to, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's like they're still living their life. They're like, yeah, they're representing our country, but like they have to care about themselves first. And we talk about that a lot in a lot of our episodes, is like, it's about you, right? Just sorry, I just lost my train of thought there.
You're good. I'll jump in really quick because I agree that I think recent events, like there's been so much pressure on athletes, especially post-pandemic. I'm going to say post because I feel like it's done, but after that, people just really saw them as just entertainment, and there's no reason that they should be acting the same as everyone else. And I can honestly say, like, there have been, and I've seen it and witnessed it and personally gone through it, of during and after the pandemic has been extremely hard to dedicate yourself again to sport, because it does take a lot of sacrifice, whether you're in the gym or on a professional level. Like, it's a lot of sacrifice that, especially like I said, after a pandemic, you realize what's important to you. So you are making a sport or exercising a priority. And with that comes guilt and physical sacrifice and sacrificing time with your family, loved ones, whatever it is. And it's a struggle for most people to realize that it's important to put yourself first. Let's say like as a gym goer, so like always like put yourself first and be able to do what's good for you. But then as an athlete, also be able to step back and realize that it's okay to not be okay, as the cliche says, but it's true. And there's been a lot more suicide lately, especially with college athletes. I just found, I wish I remembered what it was, but there is an Instagram that's bringing it all to light. And there is a lacrosse player that from Syracuse that just committed suicide. And then also the goalkeeper from Stanford on the women's side. And no one knew anything. And it's really cool to see other professional athletes and big athletes come forward now, like just admitting that, yeah, they go to therapy, or yeah, they see a psychologist, or yeah, they train their mental side.
Yeah, that's intense too. Like, I like, you think about it, it like kind of like all stems with like when you're in school, you know what I mean? Like starting back, like I want to say like middle school, it was just like I don't know, like there's a difference between like the pressure of like team sports and like everyone having like all eyes on you, especially if you're like a quarterback or like a specific position, or if like you missed the game-winning goal, or you let the game-winning goal up, or like something like that that could have a big pressure. But like even just like outside of the sports too, like having your social life as well, like being able to be a kid, being able to make sure you're getting good grades, like all that as well. And then all that and like everything basically, like the parties and everything that's like the fear of missing out, like FOMO, like being able to like block that out. And like, I don't know, it's just like everything's getting thrown at you from every which direction. It's just like we do that at such a young age, and whether you cope with that or not, it's kind of like how sometimes the rest of your career might turn out, you know? Like if you excelled your whole life, like that might not be a big deal until you get like the pressure from media. And then you start getting all these other questions and stuff like that. Then it can really start to like, oh my God, like I need a life, like get away from me, like paparazzi, like stuff like that. You can get like really intense probably. So what I did want to ask you was, have you experienced, I know we talked about stuff personally to an extent, but have you experienced any issues with mental health negatively, recent or in the past, like
Personally,
like
you
your
mean?
personal experience? Yeah, personally, you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I have figured out, well, first, I know that I put so much pressure on myself when I was younger, and like to the point where I would have nightmares if I let up a goal. Like I would not be able to sleep for 2 days because I would have serious nightmares, almost like it's life or death. Because in your mind, it like tricks you into having that response that it's a life or death situation when you put your 100% into everything and you have that pressure, whether the pressure is real or not, like actually people are saying these things to you or you think that they are, like a perceived pressure. And I definitely put that on myself. And then once I went like and started traveling to play professionally, I figured out that I always have this like time period, I would say about a month or two after I get somewhere, where I am so homesick. I am depressed. I can honestly say, like, I don't want to get out of my room. I don't want to go do things that I enjoy. And I have these periods, and I was lucky enough to figure out that it's a trend, right? Of just change, of being uncomfortable with that I'm not in my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And I'm able to allow myself to feel those things now, but then find ways to get out of it. And I think that also goes for when I had my injuries. I've had 3 surgeries now. I've been injured multiple times other than that. And time off away and dealing with not being able to be the person I want to be physically, 100% affects you mentally. And yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons I also wish that I always had someone to talk to about it. Because even now, like when athletes come to me to talk to me about it, it takes me a second to know what to say, because that's something so personal and so deep that it's very hard to get out of.
Mhm.
So I think, I mean, have you guys experienced that like yourself in exercise, even like with injuries? Like I'm sure you have.
Yeah, definitely wanted to ask Ange next to share with any experiences that you might have had that like maybe things were just like you just feel like you just couldn't do it, or if things just like were off and like maybe affected like the way you were doing things in life. Like what do you have for us?
Sure. So this definitely is a topic that is so important. A couple points. As a parent of a young athlete, I really advise that parents take the time to learn about this, because sports at a younger age than when I was younger, they're more competitive, they're more serious, there's a lot more opportunity. So I talk to my daughter, we work on this, and it's there. I see it with her, with the pressure she puts on herself with school, with soccer, with teams, with changing teams, with this, with that. So it's something that we talk about really openly in our house. So I encourage parents of athletes to put, and I don't say this negatively, but you got to put that parent ego aside. I was always taught, don't put
Yeah.
anything past your own child. So parents that think that my kid would never be this way, this would never happen to my child, they're stronger than that. I'm stronger than that. You really got to put that aside, because that's not the case. Because mental health does not discriminate against anybody. Okay. So it's very important that you talk about this and you be a part of this with your athlete, with your young child athlete. So another thing that stands out to me is, and I am in love, in love. You'll never hear me say I love a campaign so much, but that Pause is Power commercial is one of the most powerful commercials for athletes with Powerade. Talking about Pause is Power. So Reese, my daughter, was watching it and that commercial came on. And I relate a lot to bodybuilding because that's my sport. I'm like, Reese, pause is power. Like your improvement season, you're stopping, you're enjoying, you're growing. And she says, yeah, because people think if you pause and you stop, it's a weakness. And my
Yep.
12-year-old said that to me. So now in our
Belief.
house, right now in our house, and I said, yes, sweetie, yeah, you exactly are right. It is not a weakness though. It shows that it's rest, it's recovery. And now we talk about pause is power. We say that in our house all the time.
I love that.
If you haven't seen that campaign, I highly suggest you get on YouTube and check it out. It is awesome. But going back to Scotty, your question, yeah, like I can tell you 2 times I lost my high school field hockey championship. My team lost my college championship field hockey. When I was finished those 2 sports, especially college, I didn't feel like I had an identity. I was known as the athlete. So what did I do? Try to find another sport. Okay. Luckily, bodybuilding fell into my hands. It was like perfect timing. And obviously, the outcome has been positive because I've had a lot of positive role models in the sport. I just started running 5Ks every month. Then my friend and I were like, how many runs can we do? And then it was like, I need to be a part of something. And then you feel like I said, you lost your identity. Who am I? Who am I when I'm not on a field hockey team? Okay. So that took a lot. And luckily, I found the gym, I found the lifting, I found the running, I found races, I found bodybuilding. But I actively did seek for something to be a part of. I just happen to have some really good role models in front of me. My mom, very important to kind of be like, well, oh, girl, pump the brakes. What are we doing here? You're doing too much, or why are we looking this way? What are we doing? And my mom was very, she still is, very, I have 4 daughters. What's going on with each of my daughters? Okay, so my mom was very active in helping me stay on the right track because bodybuilding can be a slippery slope. It can go really bad and really be unhealthy, or it can be the healthy route. So yeah, Scotty, so the long answer, short answer is yes. When I was done my college sports, I struggled with my identity because I'd always for years identified myself with a team. And then it was just me.
Yeah,
Yep.
I want to comment on that because one of the coolest things, and what I start my like curriculum that I'm forever building, but one of the coolest things that I learned in school was about athletic identity and how that should be the very first thing, in my opinion, that everyone should work on. And that is, what are your values and beliefs in life? And then how can you apply them to everything, including athletics? Because if you have an unhealthy athletic identity, which most of us do, we put our everything into a sport and we see ourselves just as an athlete, and we ignore all the great things we have to offer off of the field or court or whatever. And I think at an early age, that's like drilled into our brains because you're supposed to like single sport select or whatever, and like playing more than one sport is so hard and blah blah blah. But it's like, when at an early age, when you drill into someone that they're supposed to play one sport and that's what they're supposed to do and that's what they're gonna be, then you start to identify yourself with that. And then when that's taken away, you feel like you have nothing else. And it's mainly because you just didn't build that outside of you. And you don't realize that the values and beliefs that you have built in your sport can help you in all aspects. And I think that is so, so huge, to take your self-worth and your identity out of athletics and put it to your entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I will go through this coming up soon. I work on my mental health as an athlete so much. We're 2 weeks from stage, 4 weeks from stage number 2, then improvement season for guys, it could be a year. So I've really worked on the past 5 years of being in the sport, that back in the sport, I started a sport in 2004, but I've really worked on exactly what you said, Audrey, is taking all of those characteristics of myself and who I am, a wife, a mother, a business owner, a fitness professional. I've taken all those things and really have worked on that to prepare for my improvement season, because each season that you go through as an athlete offers something different mentally. And we're going to do a podcast on the post-show improvement season down the road, probably sometime end of May. But you really have to dig into your mental hygiene, because that's what's really going to prepare you for each stage as an athlete. Absolutely. And then if you do that, you will take each of those characteristics that you offer and you bring all this wonderful stuff to the world, you will start to use it in every area of your life. And that's the ultimate.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah, the athletic identity is something I wish I had a little bit more when I was younger. So personally for me, I think being on sports team, like our school was never really great at like certain sports. Like we had definitely some athletes that were really good, that excelled and like went on and did big things. But like as like a group, like I wouldn't say our school didn't really win like many championships or anything like that, especially teams that I were on. But I feel like wrestling was one of the hardest sports I've ever done, both physically and mentally. And I feel like wrestling was definitely the reason who I am, just because of how much pressure is put on you, because it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. And I was never great at wrestling. It was like one of those sports that I just got into because I did Pop Warner, and then in middle school, didn't make the basketball team. Not that I really cared. So I went into wrestling, and my sister's friends were all wrestlers, and they would come over and they would just like beat the crap out of me, like, all right, try to get up. And that's kind of how I learned how to wrestle. So that's one thing I definitely learned was like always get back up. Like doesn't matter how hard you get knocked down. But when I came to high school, after my sophomore year, I lost like, I don't know, like 18, 20 matches or something like that. Like I won like 5, and it was like so disheartening. I went to my coach and I was like, I don't know if I want to come back next year. And he's now like superintendent of like our township, but at the time he was the wrestling coach, and he was like, no, like you're not quitting. Like you're not a quitter. Like why do you want to quit? And it's like, because I'm bad. Like I'm not good. Like I'm getting my ass kicked all the time. Like it's just not fun. Like why am I doing this sport if I'm not having fun with it? He's like, all right, how about this? Like let's train during the off season. Let's train during the summer. All right. We'll work on some things a little bit more. We'll kind of find like where your niche is at, and if beginning of the season, if you don't want to do it, then that's fine. Like you can walk away, no big deal. I was like, all right. And then I kind of went to a camp, like I started learning more moves, this stuff like that. And I bounced back. But I had someone there to kind of like reassure me. He's like, hey, like you got this, kind of like talk me out of it. Like my mom, like don't get me wrong, my family is super supportive. They probably wouldn't have let me quit either. I never even mentioned to them that I wanted to quit. And I think that's also, before I get there, and then I ended up doing really well at the beginning of the year. I dislocated my elbow, whatever. Then it came back and like I crushed it my senior year. I ended up wrestling in college, and then didn't really excel in college, but like definitely got better every year. So like going into college, going from the top to the bottom, that was super struggle. But having like my friends, like all like my roommates, like they all wrestled. So it was like having them, that camaraderie with them definitely helped push me through it. And then on the other side, like I said, like I always kept things in. I never really expressed too much. I was never one to really share how I felt. If you ask Megan, you never really know how I feel sometimes. I'm much better now at expressing myself, and kind of just saying what's on my mind and kind of like how I feel. But it was always just like I felt weak if I was like not being strong, or if I wasn't like up for the challenge and stuff like that. And sometimes like going to a match or going to a game or something and just have it in the back of my head, like you're not good enough. Like what's the point? Like stuff like that. So like, that was definitely a struggle for me when I was younger. And I probably would have had more people like my coach to be there for me if I would have just said something, if I would have just kind of expressed a little bit more how I felt. And who knows, you know?
Yeah, I have so many comments. So first, like the first thing that like brought up, just reminding me of Lewis Howes' book called The Five Masks of Masculinity or something. There is one in there about the athlete mask. And it talks about this kind of stuff and how like, and I read it because I 100% am just like you, Scotty, where like, I don't show emotion. I'm like stone cold. You won't know what's going on with me. And I'm still actively working on it. Like feel like I'm getting better, but I was always an open book. If someone asked me, I wouldn't necessarily shy away from it, but not a lot of people ask. So like you said, like you didn't really say these things to your parents. So your coaches are always the ones there and your teammates are always the ones there, which is why I think it's so important for coaches and parents and everyone to know what's going on, like how to ask these questions or how to even just be aware of certain situations, because they're the ones that are there with you all day, every day, or in the practices, and they can tell if a mood has changed or if a performance is changing, or if your interaction with the teammates is changing. You're not always going to come forth. So there needs to be someone there that's asking, because most people will show some sort of sign at some point. And so coaches and teammates all need to be aware of what that kind of is. That way, there's a safe environment created that if something is asked, then they will say it. And I can say like, I'm experiencing it now with the teams I'm working with and on my team personally. I'm trying to be that person now that's always asking, no matter who it is, whether it's the coach, the person at the front desk, a kid that I'm just seeing on the sidelines. Like, it doesn't matter. You can always be that person that asks someone else how they're doing. And if you genuinely mean it, most people, not all, will say something, show something. So I think it's so important. And you brought up all those points of like having a great coach that's not going to let you quit, and having teammates and the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. But I think everyone needs to be aware, not just athletes of their own.
Yeah, like I definitely oh wow, I just lost my train of thought. I had something there for a second. It's definitely like having like when I coach every day in class and I am literally just reading everybody's faces, I'm watching everyone's form, I'm having like little chit chats here and there, kind of just like making sure people are having a good time. But like if I see someone and then usually they say hi to me or whatever, and they just kind of like walk past me and whatever, I'm like, hey, you good? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, nah, you good? I do that with literally everybody there. And it's like one of those things, like you just got to check up on people and you never know. And then sometimes people are like, whoa, like, and boom, the floodgates open and they just start pouring like, everything they have out.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. And then like I said, I'm a really good listener. Sometimes I don't know what to say, but like, if you got something to say, like I could, like, I'm open, you know what I mean? Just like, let's let it out.
Sometimes that's all someone needs. They just need to say it to someone else. And it's a huge, just like relief when they like say it to someone.
Yeah. And my issue is that like, sometimes like relationship is like, sometimes like I always feel like I have to fix the problem. So like Megan will come home and she'll be like this, and this. And I'm like, well, you know, like if you did this, she's like, shut up. That's not what I need right now. Like, I just need you to listen. That's all I need. Like, all right. Because like, I don't know, like I'm a problem solver. Like I want to fix the problem. You know what I mean? So like, I want to make sure everything's right. I want to make sure you're feeling better. Like I want to fix it right now. It doesn't happen right now. Like these things do take time, and your mental health is something that doesn't get fixed in a day. Right. So I think that's really important for all of our listeners, viewers, to like definitely take this, not with a grain of salt, like make sure that you're like taking this super serious. Like don't go too far if you have something on your mind, like at least share with somebody. It doesn't have to be someone you see every day. It doesn't have to be your mom, your family. Maybe it's just like a coworker. Maybe it's just random strangers. Sometimes I tell strangers like the most like personal stuff. You know what I mean? Like someone like I meet at the airport. Like, you ever like sit down at the airport, like have a beer or something, you're just chilling before your flight, and then boom, you get in like this 30-minute conversation with this guy or a girl, and like you have no idea what their name is, and you're kind of just like, yeah, well, like this, and then they start pouring out everything, and it's like sometimes you just need that outlet, that just kind of expression.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I can also say that even if someone is shy, one of the biggest things that's helped me in the last few years, I would say since 2020, I started taking it seriously, and that was journaling. And I don't necessarily do it every day. I try in my mind, if I can, that's my morning like ritual is journaling. And it sucked at first. Like I absolutely hated it. I was like, why does everyone keep talking about how you need to journal? Like I'm just writing down exactly what I'm thinking. It doesn't mean anything. But the more I kept writing and the more I just stuck to it, just like physical practice where you're not good at it at first, like, and you just keep going, the more I was honest with myself and honest with situations when I'm writing down in a journal, because I was tired of writing the same thing. I was like, this isn't what I'm thinking. I was like, this isn't what I'm really feeling and thinking. And I can say like in 2020, I was in Spain, and that's when I got injured with my ankle. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I here? And I spent the time to journal and write all these things down. I listened to Jay Shetty's book, went through all of his things and like really figured out my values, everything like that. And I was way more honest with myself than I think I would have ever been with a person even, of just being able to keep writing what I'm honestly thinking now, knowing that no one will ever really read it. And I think that can really help. That's like my number one suggestion besides talking to someone is talk to yourself, figure out yourself, and write it down, because when you write it down, it's real and you can handle it then.
I like that. Yeah, because like that's one thing I never really got into as well. Like we've talked about doing like power lists and stuff like that. And like I get on board with it and I start doing it. And then I just like the first like couple days, I'm just like I forget to look at the list, and it's like then I forget to do something. So it's like I definitely need to practice that more, because it's like you go 2-3 days and like, all right, cool, like this, like what is this doing for me? But you're right, it's gotta be something, it's gotta be consistent. We talk about that a lot, is being consistent, like staying on top of things. Like that's the only way you're going to see change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Audrey, I have two things to ask you. So we talked about this a little bit off the podcast. Apollo Ono, okay, and his book about finding your identity after you've been an Olympic athlete, speed skater. He's in his 20s, maybe 30s, retired that young. He talks about something called FOPO, okay, not FOMO, fear of missing out, FOPO, FOOPO, fear of other people's opinions. And hanging around athletes, young athletes, my daughter, and certain teams and different, just hearing and talking to parents, FOPO is real with these young athletes.
Yep.
And it's so easy for me as a athlete in their 40s who have worked on themselves for so many years. It's easy for me to say, oh, don't worry what other people think. Okay. Because being an athlete in your 40s and being in bodybuilding, don't get it twisted. Shade gets thrown at me all the time. Okay. But I'm equipped. Like I have that suit of armor. I've dove into myself. I'm in my 40s. I've had more time to work on myself. But 10, 12, 13, 15, 18-year-olds, they haven't had that much time. How do we go about as parents and coaches and even as young athletes? Like, what would you say to them to stop the FOPO? So,
you know, that is one of the first things that all the athletes are saying to me right now too, younger athletes, is like, well, this person will think this of me, or like this person said this or whatever, or like I think this person was staring at me weird. And you're right. You take that in, you're just like, why do you care? But first, I always say like, oh, that's completely normal that you're thinking that you're feeling that you're paying attention to it, because there is some sort of, there's an extent to where external motivation, like people talking about you, like the pressures from outside, it serves its purpose, right? You need both internal motivation and external to want to succeed, because when one fails, you need to kind of rely on the other. So I think to some degree, I like to like tell athletes that it's okay that you feel that way, and to let's learn how to use it as fuel, which again doesn't happen overnight, but you learn to use it as fuel. But I think when it hits that point where it diminishes who they are as a person, as like an athlete, as everything, it comes back to figuring out who you are, that athletic identity. What are your values? What are your beliefs? And the sooner and stronger you believe in what you're doing and remembering why you're doing it. So, and this is actually what I thought of too, when Scotty was saying like his wrestling thing, and like keep going back, and how in college you were enjoying the process, even if you weren't like an amazing, like whatever, like a star, like everyone knows your name, everyone's chanting, you know what I mean? Like it's remembering why you're doing it, and having those answers early can help you and help coaches, parents, friends refocus younger kids into like, okay, well, why are you doing this? Like, why are you actually here? And most of the time they're like, because it's fun. It's like, okay, so you're having fun. Is what they're saying affecting you having fun? And if they say yes, be like, how can we fix that? And like actually guide them into leading their own answers. But it's exactly like we've been saying, like it needs to be consistent. It can't just be a one-off thing of like a parent or a coach being like, oh, don't care what they think. Like, just have fun. You just want to have fun. Just go have fun. Forget about it. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice on focusing. Because let's say there's a parent screaming in the stands at their kid. This is the number one thing I hate, by the way, as a coach, to hear a parent in the stand telling my player what to do on the field. I'm like, you're not the coach. But that kid wants to listen to their parent, right? Like they want to listen to their parent, or they want to listen to the person on the sideline. So there's like techniques of teaching athletes how to focus from a broad spectrum back into reality, and like teaching the kids that it's okay to acknowledge that these things are going on outside and these pressures are going to happen. And yes, you're going to shift focus really quick, but it's just about how fast can you snap back into what you're focusing on.
You ever march over that sideline, Audrey? Have you ever walked over to the parent sideline and been like, hello? Have you ever? Yeah?
Yeah. I've had to have discussions with parents for sure.
Good for you. I think that's important. Coaches out there, if you're listening, keep us parents in check, because we've all seen them. We've all seen them.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been around. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, even like in the gym, like how other people comment on other people, like as a coach, like I'm sure you've heard it and like wanted to be like, what are you saying to them? Like, why are you like, oh, like it, people need to know. People need to know.
I've had legit someone in the gym as I was giving PT, they were commenting on something like, oh, like, why don't you try doing it like this way? Or like, and just like, like, I got this. Don't worry. I'm good. Thank you though for your help. Or like I had like don't get me wrong, like I have no problem with my clients asking me questions and stuff, but like I legit was like, well, you know, I was shown to do it this way, and I think this way is like a much better way of doing it. And like it was like one of those things that I had to really like just bite my tongue. And I was like, I understand, like you might have learned it this way, but like I didn't say it this way, but I was like, you're paying me for these services to like educate you. Like let me educate you. Like, and I explained to him, I was like, hey, like, all right, this like what you say makes sense, but that's not what we're actually focusing on here. So it's like being able to like educate people like that way as well. So like being able to, like we talked about it our last podcast, like your energy is where, like how do you transfer your energy? And I feel like that's a huge thing, is being able to take all that outside noise and either block it or use it in a positive way.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like sometimes like you see some of these basketball players, like you'll see like on Twitter or Instagram, and you just hear like some of the fans like just chirping in their ear. They're like, oh yeah, like blah blah blah, and then you just see that player just like go off and like run up 20 points, and they just like crush it.
I was gonna say, like, I've admitted this to so many people, even here, like the other day, I talked to someone about this. For me, I don't know why I like this, but I love pressure. I love outside pressure. And I think that's why I've always succeeded here in Iceland, because for some reason, they don't like the way I play. And I mean, like, there's obviously some, they keep signing me, right? So like someone likes how I play, but I'm much smaller than an average goalkeeper, and not a lot of people like that. And there's always been something about Iceland that I feel like I have something to prove. And I'm sure most of it's in my head, but I see the media and I can understand the media, and people tell me, and I like it. And it's like, I feed off of it. Like, I don't know what I don't know what it is. There's just something about that. I like being here to prove people wrong.
And that's okay.
Even if it's in my head.
Right.
It's great.
Right.
If it's helping you, if it's working in a positive manner for you, then yeah.
Right.
You can make it up
I
completely.
have a question.
Don't be talking about it, and then boom, as long as it's in your head and it's helping, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Right. I have a topic to ask. Scotty, do you have another one, or you want me to ask?
No, you're good. Go for it.
Okay, so real quick, let's back up, because we got our girls NCAA champs. Okay, what, South Carolina, and we got our men's NCAA champs, Kansas. All right, so incredible. I stayed up so late watching so many games. I'm just like, and then part of me's like, what am I gonna watch? Like, what sports? But we got, Scotty, what we got coming up?
Well, I got the Masters on the background right now.
Yes, there we go. We
literally,
I'm
watching Tiger tee off.
Yep.
And I'm watching these basketball games, and I'm like, oh, and like everyone's asleep, and I'm like staying up watching these basketball games, and I'm like, I should text Scotty, are you watching this? But I'm like, DePrente's not watching this. Who's watching this? I'm just loving it. So congrats to all of them. So I'm not going to get her name right. Reese reminds me all the time. South Carolina, they lost last year, and the girl, they were interviewing her. She's got the really pretty, like, multicolored braids, like one's purple, and I don't know her name, but Reese will correct me. And she says to the girl interviewing her, last year, all they played was me crying because we lost. That's all they played, over and over again. Everybody had a video or a picture of me crying because we lost. And she was like, now we won. So my question is, let's talk social media and media pressure. Okay. And as many people in the podcast know, social media is my non-negotiable as a parent. No way. Reese has a seminar at school yesterday by some very lovely Loyola gentleman. She brings me this thing and says, her guidance counselor is amazing, by the way. Here's a family contract for social media. And this is supposed to be so that if I get social media, this is a family contract to say how we can respect it and how I can respect social media. And I looked at her and I said, Sweeney, I know you're responsible. I know you're independent. I said, I don't even want to read this. The answer is no. You are 12 years old. There is nothing for you on social media. If you want to look at the women's U.S. national team, I'll give you my Instagram. If you want to check out Julie Ertz, or you want to check out Chris, you want to see what's going on with Olivia Rodrigo, whatever, like, I'll show you. You can look on mine. And I said, do you understand where I'm coming from? I was like, you maybe in high school, but your brain, and then I get into it, your brain's not developed for this. Your brain is not developed to understand the pressures of social media at 12. You're not even a teenager yet. So it's a hard no for me as a parent, and judge me what you want, parents. It's a hard no for my kid, and that's how it is. So let's talk. Tell me about the pressures of social media and maybe like how you have seen that affect young athletes or yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're completely in the right to take that stance on social media. I can say that I've had many discussions with athletes about the pressures of social media and how they feel like I mean, just like everyone does, right? You get on and you compare, whether you realize that you're doing it or not.
Yep.
You are comparing your life, every aspect of it, to anything anyone posts, whether it's a friend
Yep.
or not. I think that there are ways to deal with it, obviously, of, again, using it as fuel to like be exposed to like other athletes and things like that, because I mean, I think it's a great tool that young athletes can use if used properly. Because like you said, I mean, like when you're exposed to it, like if you see it, like let's say female athletes just in general, you want to see female athletes doing their thing. Well, social media is a big part of that. And I think if you can see that kind of stuff, it's great in that aspect. But I can also say in the other direction of me personally, as an example, I started comparing myself to my friends and other players in the NWSL. And I was constantly jealous that I wasn't there, especially after my surgery and my injury. I wasn't even back fully playing yet. And I could see them all playing. And I was like, why am I not there? And I kept thinking to myself, I'm not good enough to be there. And I would just get angry and depressed on myself. Well, I ended up deleting Instagram for about a week. And then I decided I got back on to use as a communication tool, because that's another great benefit of it. You get to connect with people. But I stopped following all the people that didn't serve me. So that included professional players that made me feel like I wasn't as good as them, or I should be where they are. The teams, I stopped following other teams. I stopped following my old teams. And I think that speaks to the way that you're parenting Reese in that way of like, if you want to see these certain things, then yeah, you can come and you can look at their pages and see what they're doing on my Instagram. But what's so hard for younger athletes and younger kids in general, or even just people, I mean, everyone, is realizing which exposure is serving you and which is bringing you down. And I think that's advice for everyone, not just the youth, is that social media can be toxic to anyone. So
Yep.
I think parents and coaches need to monitor that as well, of exposure on social media and screen time in general, and seeing all these things of who are you following, who are you using as an example, because the more you're exposed to it, the more you're going to want to be it, whether on purpose or not.
Right.
100%. Because you could be accidentally like, you can follow someone and then like you get recommendations for somebody else, and you get recommendations for somebody else, and then like they might not all be linked in a positive manner, and now you're following someone and then you just keep seeing these things about on their story, and you're like, well, this person's doing this, like why can't I do that? You know?
Yeah.
Like it could just lead down a rabbit hole.
So easy to do that in the sport of bodybuilding to the max.
I was just gonna say, I mean, even like the body transformation pictures that if you look at one, you get like 1 million on your Explore feed. Like it doesn't matter. You get exposed to it. Just like that's the point of social media, is to feed you what it thinks you want to see so that you buy into it. And I can say I'm guilty of that too. Like Ryan, my boyfriend, like needs to stop me all the time. Like, or even just my coaches that I've sent it to, Toady, like back at home, I'll send him like these really fit, muscular, just like girls. I'm like, I want to look like this. And they're both like, you're a goalkeeper. Like, you don't need to look like that. You're a professional athlete. Like, you don't need to look like that person. And you won't, because you don't train like them. You don't eat like them. You don't live like them. You don't have the same genetics as them. And it's like, you forget all these things that
Yeah.
you like, it's very obvious, like, it. And I'm sure the same thing in bodybuilding, and like even just fitness in general, or coaches, watching other coaches and watching what they do. You're like, oh, I could do that. But it just complicates your life.
Yep. And it's so funny because being 2 weeks out and the way everything's right on track, I'm so proud, so happy. However, you could never get on stage and be a performance athlete. You are at your weakest. And people get that illusion that you look so strong. You look like your muscles are popping. You got veins, girl, but you're really at your weakest sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's funny because your purpose is different versus the way that people train. So absolutely. But you can definitely get caught in that. Number one, what other people are posing and looking like 2 weeks before stage, especially if they're tagging your show. And here I'm just trying to keep track of my show. So if they announce something, I don't miss it,
Yeah.
I don't need to see all that noise. But also too, a lot of competitors can get caught up in the coach thing. Like, my coach did this, your coach did this. And then you start cross-referencing, should I be doing that? Should I be doing that? When really you just got to trust your coach and trust the process.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
You definitely gotta be careful of like who you're looking at. And like I stopped following certain guys and certain girls on social media because like every picture was just a picture of them. And like it's not like that's not what I need social media for. Like, I'm not just trying to look at a body. Like, I'm trying to educate
you are
myself.
Scotty the body.
I am the body. I don't need to look at other bodies. So it's like being like getting that out of your feed is like, just like, I started just like deleting. Like, I follow certain athletes because maybe they put inspiration stuff, or like I kind of like want to see like the training and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's cool to see like someone do like these like clapping push-ups and like ropes, like Superman, like all the stuff. But like, it's just like, now it's like, oh, like, let me try to do that. And then you do it, and then you get discouraged and like, oh man, like I couldn't do that. Like you don't have to do that. Like, that's not what, like, is that your goal? Like, no, like your goal is to either, whatever your goal is, like, you know what I mean, practice your purpose. Like we said on the last podcast. All right. That's Ange brought that up. Practice your purpose.
Journal that
like
every day. Yep.
If it's not helping you become better, then like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Focus your energy.
That feeds back to exactly what you said, like, of your purpose and finding your athletic identity, or just your identity in general, comes with finding your values and your beliefs. And if you are doing anything that does not feed those things, your purpose, your values, your belief, following them on social media, being around them in person, being in a gym that doesn't make you feel those things, that all needs to change. That all should be feeding yourself. And I know I mentioned this guy to Ange, but Michael Gervais, the sports psychologist for the Seattle Seahawks, and like obviously way more, but that's what he's most known for. I was listening to an interview with him, and he talks about how you should be able to say your purpose in one sentence, and you should be able to live it every day. And obviously that takes practice, because if you sit down and write down who you are and what you want to be and everything you want to do, you'd probably write an entire paper full. But the more you work on it, it should be very simplified into almost one sentence, where you can just tell someone what your purpose is in life. Like, what are you living for? What are you working for? What are you working out for? And if you have those ground principles, of course, like I said, your focus is going to shock out really quick. But if you can bring them back, because you're so solid in your purpose, social media, you might see someone's like training technique, and then you'd be like, oh, I want to do that. You're like, no, that doesn't feed me. That's not my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's theirs. And it makes it all so much easier.
Yeah, I've definitely hurt myself a couple times like doing like a movement, be like, oh cool, like let me try doing this real quick. Like it's fun to do like some of the challenges that we do like between like the F45s and stuff. Like those are fun. They're not too outlandish, except when you have like some of the girls just doing like handstands into like a backflip into like a handstand. I'm like why? Like who are you challenging? You're just showing off at that point. Like you're not challenging anybody. Like because not everyone is like a Circus du Soleil like person. Like you know what I mean? Like who are you challenging? You're just showing. You're literally just showing off.
Love it. Love it.
But like I definitely like looked at certain like exercises and I'm like, all right, cool. Like let me try to incorporate this. And I like do it in one of my lifts, and I was like, oh, that was a bad idea. Like I shouldn't have done that. Like
yeah, exactly.
Well, this is go ahead.
I was gonna say just keep an eye on the time because I think you had practice, Audrey.
I do.
Yeah, I was gonna be perfect because I was just gonna cut it. I was just gonna say how great this episode was. Thank you so much for hopping on. I know this episode is gonna be a big help for a lot of people, whether they realize it or not. Because I think mental health is either you either realize it or you don't realize it, and then it can catch up to you. So it's very important that you either try to nip it in the bud, or you, when you do experience it, that you do something about it. Like take action. All right. If you got those thoughts in your head, like it's the best way to do is write it down on paper or express it to somebody. Don't keep them up there. When they come up, when they stay up in here and locked up, then they start festering and they start building up, and they turn into something that you don't want around anymore. All right. Any closing words before we get into our song of the week?
Just thank you guys for having me on and talking about this topic. And I'm 100% available to anyone that wants to talk at any point. On my Instagram.
How can people get a hold of you? People just contact you through Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best way. Again, that's why I said I keep it for communication. So it's oddball_00. All my social media is that. So super easy to just send me a message or whatever. And I like to help. So I'm all ears.
Now, Audrey, can you take us over and show us that field behind you? Are you able to move your phone and take us? Let's check this out.
Hold on, I have to get you off my mannequin.
Ooh. Hey, look at that.
So that's how cow. The kids are inside today. There's a field outside. That's where we are today. But this is our home field. Yeah.
That's great,
awesome.
Audrey. That's great. That's great.
And we're in VIP right now, you know.
Ooh.
Oh, check it.
Right.
Nice.
Awesome. So we like to end every episode with a song that we've been jamming out to, with kind of helping get through our workouts, stuff like that. Do you have a song for us that you've been kind of like playing on repeat or rocking out to, something like that?
My song of the year, I feel like, is The Show Goes On by Lupe Fiasco. It's an old song.
Hell yeah.
It's a little bit of a throwback, but
Reese did a dance routine to that.
Really? See,
That's
I just think
so cool.
Yeah, I think it's a dope song, and it just keeps telling you why you gotta keep on pushing. Show goes on.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
It's great. Andrew, what's helping you get through prep?
Okay, so going back to 1983, it's a remake on the dark side. John Cafferty, I believe, was the original. I think Bruce Springsteen did it. But now we got Slipknot's Corey Taylor remaking On the Dark Side. Please check it out. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I definitely will.
It's amazing. Audrey, this is like something your mom's band would sing. Totally.
Oh gosh, I'm definitely gonna have to show her then. She probably will love it.
Love that. And I don't know, I heard it like remixed, like behind one of the songs. It might have been the song or not, but it thought it would be perfect for this week. I was jamming this Cypress Hill Insane in the Brain, and I feel like that's perfect with this week's episode, because I feel like we are all a little bit insane in the brain, especially when it comes to something that we love and that we're passionate about. And I think I don't know, I felt like it was suitable.
Nice.
Awesome. Usually we have Prince
love
kind of
it.
close us out with a little
I don't know
words
if
of
I'm
wisdom.
frozen, but everybody's frozen. The rain just started to pour outside, so I think my reception
Oh
just got kind of
gosh.
crazy.
All good, all good. We usually close out with some words of wisdom with Prince. The only thing I can really say is just take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and then be there for others. Be an open book and be an open ear. Make sure you're helping others, and that's the whole goal for this is to. Oh, I think we lost Ange. All right. Well, thank you so much. You can find me, Sky the Body, Instagram. You can find Ange, who just bounced at Ange Fit. Prince is not on, but you can find him at Train Like Prince, all social media platform. And you can find Audrey at
Oddball _00.
Awesome. I think Ange's coming back.
Am I
Can you hear us?
back a little bit? Am I back a little bit?
You're
So
back.
Yes.
my new podcast.
All right.
Let me tell you,
Ange,
as soon as it started to pour.
it's just cut out. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. You go ahead and do the ending, and I'll stop recording when you guys are ready.
Cool. We are good. I already told them where they can find you. We are good to go. You can end the
All right.
recording. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day and deuces.
Thank you. Thanks, Audrey.
Bye.